talking about learners with difficulty in hearing. So according to the Department of Education, in the Philippines as of 2020, there were 9,959 learners who were diagnosed with hearing difficulties enrolled in public schools. However, these numbers may not entirely accurate as it only includes those learners who disclose their hearing impairment to their schools. Moving on, the definition is this refers to students with an issue regarding hearing that interferes with academics. The definition from Individuals with Disabilities Education Act or IDEA defines it as an impairment in hearing, whether permanent or fluctuating, that adversely affects a child's educational performance but is not included under the definition of deafness. So, deafness and learners with hearing disability is the two different types of hearing impairment. So, deafness is a profound or severe or kumbaga grabe na yun. So, they rely their communication to the sign language. On the other hand, the learners with hearing difficulty refers to a hearing impairment with refers to a range of hearing impairment that causes a learner's ability to hear or understand what the speaker or what the one he is talking to refers. To identify learners with difficulty in hearing, first is speaking loudly. So we can say that it is an indication of a learner with hearing difficulty, for maybe they compensate their reduced ability to hear. That's why they speak louder, so that which can cause them to speak louder, because so that they can hear themselves better. Second, positioning ear towards the direction of the one speaking. So they tilt their ear towards the sound waves. Third is asking for information to be repeated again and again. So they may have missed or not fully understand what someone is trying to say. So that's why they ask questions to avoid misconceptions and misunderstandings. Fourth, delayed development of speech. So hearing is crucial in our life, specifically in speech and language. So in order to learn to speak, we must need to hear first, because as what I always say, what a child sees is what they act or what they do, and what they hear is what they say. Okay? Fifth is watching the face of the speaker intently. So they are relying to the visual cues so that they can lip read or speech read. Sixth is favoring one ear. So learners with difficulty in hearing may not totally, as what I have said earlier, they are not totally deaf. That's why one ear is nagagana and one ear is not. Okay, so sixth is not responding when told. Maybe they don't hear the call or the one who is speaking. Seven, has difficulty following directions. So learners with difficulty in hearing hindi pa nag-sink in yung mga information or yung mga words kasi nga hindi sila masyadong nakakarinig. So does not mind loud noises. Lastly, being close to the source of sounds. As I have said earlier, they tilt their ear towards parse the sound waves so that they can hear better. So their learning characteristics. Hearing impaired students have language and experience deficiencies due to missing out on conversation. Second, investment of time and energy by parents and educators can help overcome these problems. Investment of time and energy is crucial to the development of learners with difficulty in hearing because they need supports and accommodations different from their peers. Next is common communication methods include hearing aids and lip reading. So what is hearing aids? Hearing aids is the one that can help them. It is an assistive devices that can help them better hear what someone is trying to say. So on the other hand, lip reading is a visual cue. That's why when we are, as a teacher, when we are teaching those learners with difficulties in hearing, we need to turn on the lights so that they can be trained. Next is these students are referred to as oral and may have delayed communication skills and prefer to work independently. So oral means spoken language. So they are referred to as oral because they are not totally deaf. Deafness is relying to, as I have said earlier again, they are relying to sign language. Next is they understand concepts better with simpler sentence structure. Lastly, note takers are used by some hearing impaired students in class. So this can be particularly helpful for them to take note because again they don't fully understood what I am trying to say here. So they need to write or take note so that they can review or so to help them understand what I am trying to say here. So next is the general educational adaptations. There is an assumption that the only adjustment for hearing impaired students is to make all instructional materials and techniques in written format. These are other ways to adopt hearing impaired students that teachers should help students with difficulty hearing to use the residual hearing they may have. Next is teachers should help students develop the ability for speech reading. And third is teachers should be mindful to face the class at all times when presenting information while ensuring all the students with difficulty hearing hear them. Next is exaggerating the pronunciation of words should not be done for it just makes it difficult for the students with difficulty hearing. So for you to better understand this general adaptations, I have here a video with which na merong explanation on what is the feeling of a learners with difficulty in hearing and the top tips to overcome them.
Because sometimes my teacher talks too fast and I can't really understand what she's saying. I have a hard time kind of discerning what she's saying. And I can't learn without an interpreter. That's why I need an interpreter. And also because I prefer to understand what my teacher is saying. And they all help me because they want me to use my brain. They want me to think and help me to learn on my own. So they kind of guide me to that. Sometimes I communicate with hearing kids a little bit. I understand them. Sometimes I don't really understand them, so I have to ask them. I have to ask my other friends who's hard of hearing. And she comes over and I'll say, what did they say? Can you tell me what they said? And sometimes she kind of interprets for me and tells me what the hearing people say, just like Miss Poteet. My role in the classroom is as interpreter, and that means that I sign everything the teacher says and voice everything the student signs. I take what the teacher says, sometimes rephrase it if there's not complete understanding for the student, take time to ask questions of the student, and make sure that I understand exactly what they're wanting to say.
First thing that you need to do when you have a number line. It was kind of scary having the interpreter in there at first because she interprets every single thing I say and she interprets everything that the other students are saying. So a lot of times I would just have students yelling out answers, and you really can't just have like lots of students yelling at one time. You have to make sure that just one person's talking at a time, because the interpreters can't interpret, 5 different students talking at one time. First it was a little hard, but I got used to it really quickly.
I am strictly there for communication purposes. I don't step in and teach. I support her in helping expand on maybe what the students' needs are.
I write and monitor the IEP goals for the students. Mrs. Legg is in charge of planning the lessons for the general ed curriculum. I'm the one who keeps data on everything that they're doing in the classroom. We talk about the students. I am responsible for taking what she is doing and modifying or accommodating so that my students are able to achieve at the same level as everyone else in the classroom.
She's in there to help the deaf students, but then she would also sometimes help my other kids as well.
I look at her lesson plans and see what skills she's targeting in reading and writing for the week, and I incorporate them into my lesson plans.
I have to make sure that I stop my lesson at a certain time so that she can pull out her students. Because there are times when I'm like, I want to extend this lesson a little bit longer, but I know I can't because her students are leaving and I don't want them to miss it. So I have to make sure that I kind of slow down when I'm teaching. I try to use a lot more visuals.
Deaf students cannot take notes and listen at the same time or watch an interpreter at the same time. So be aware that if you're asking them to write, then hold off on what you want to say.
Sometimes a lecture style can be overwhelming. All of that auditory information coming in can be overwhelming for the students, so they might not always get every piece. So I'll go to the board and we'll look at the visuals and I'll break it down for them some more so that I can make sure that they're getting the concepts too.
There's just so much curriculum that we have to cram into the 1 year, so we have some intervention time. So during that time I can pull some groups of students that I feel really need some extra support.
Again, discuss what weight is, what are some tools you can use to measure.
Our role is not to come in and take notes on mistakes or things that are said in the classroom and report back to anyone. We are strictly there as a member of the educational team. We want the same things for the students that the teacher does. If there's something that needs to be addressed in the classroom, I let the teacher address it.
Really, I feel like the interpreter, Ms. Legg, and I, we're all a team and we all communicate with each other.
Even though I was super nervous at the beginning, I actually would prefer having her in my classroom. I've picked up a little bit of sign myself, a little bit, so it's actually been a great experience.